My favorite angle. God, I hope YouTube crashes tonight. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripātamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So, inshallah, we'll pick up where we left. Oh. Pick up where we left off in Srimad Bhagavatam. We were reading in Canto 11, We were in chapter 13. We're pretty solidly into the Uddhava Gita now. I was thinking, it's so strange. I was just looking at this. How could this not be right where I need it? I was reading it on my computer. I don't know where the heck. I wasn't even in the right chapter. That's still technical glitch. We should be in chapter 13, which is Hamsa Avatar instructing the four Kumaras. I find it so much easier to navigate analog books. It just looks wrong. So the Hamsa Avatar has been explaining to the Kumaras that if we have the right perspective, it shouldn't be too difficult to maintain some sense of detachment from everything that's going on around us, because we actually don't have anything to do with that. These things are all interactions of the different modes of material nature, which don't have anything at all to do with us. So he says, Jagat Swapna Susuptam Cha Gunato Buddhi Vrittayaha Tasam Vilakshano Jiva. This is text 27. Tasam Vilakshano Jiva Sakshitvena Vinishchita. The three functions of intelligence, wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep, are caused by the three modes of material nature. It has been ascertained that the spirit soul is the seer and is completely aloof from these three states. Yahi sangsriti bandho yamatmano guna uvrittidaha mai turyo stito jahya tyagas tadguna chetasam. Due to being bound by material intelligence, a conditioned living entity is dragged toward material sense enjoyment. I'm the fourth stage of consciousness, beyond wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. And you should become established in me and thus give up the bondage of material nature. In this way, you can automatically become detached from the material sense objects and the mind. I think these are verses that we read before. Thought I had it all queued up, but it was a different device. That's our word these days, right? We rely on our devices. My devices have betrayed me.
It's all about devices.
Can you read that last sentence again?
My devices have betrayed me. They must surrender to the... Oh. In this way, you can automatically become detached from the material sense objects and the mind. That's the one.
Yeah. Is it longer? Is it go on?
That's the last sentence.
Oh, then it must.
Do you want me to read the last verse?
Okay.
Due to being bound by material intelligence, a conditioned living entity is dragged toward material sense enjoyment. I am the fourth stage of consciousness, Turiya, beyond wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. And so you should become established in me and thus give up the bondage to material nature. In this way, you can become automatically detached from material sense objects and the mind. So we've been talking about this. The way to become detached from negative things is to become attached to something positive. Become attached to Krishna. And then he says, Ahankara kritam bandham atmanota viparyayam vidvan nirvidya samsara chintam turiyestatasthyajet. The living entity has been placed in bondage by the false ego. This has been a theme in this chapter, a motif, and a repeated pattern. Three modes of material nature and the false ego. And the false ego is the interface. This is a really important thing to understand, which awards him the opposite of what he had actually hoped for. Remember, we talked about this. What was it? Just a couple of days ago, early February. We end up, we wish, we pin our hopes on so many things in the material world, and we end up getting just the opposite of what we hoped for. President Obama, for example, 8 years, they have had so many expectations of what he might be able to accomplish. After all, I'm a really smart guy. I can talk really well. Many people seem to like me a lot. There are some people who don't like me, but then I'm a really smart guy. And guess what? You got, pretty much the opposite of what he hoped for. He didn't get very much of what he had hoped to accomplish done. And he probably looks more than 8 years older than he did when he was inaugurated. He probably feels a lot more than 8 years older than he did when he was inaugurated. Therefore, an intelligent person should give up his constant anxiety to enjoy material life and remain situated in the Supreme Lord, who exists beyond the function of material consciousness. And then he says, Yavam nanartadhi pumso nani varteta yukti bihi jagartyapi swapnanagya swapne jagaranam yatha. As instructed by me, one should fix the mind on me without deviation. if one continues to have various objectives in life instead of seeing how everything can be dovetailed in my devotional service, then although believing oneself to be awake, one is actually dreaming due to lack of absorption on the transcendental platform, just as one may dream that one has awakened while still sleeping. And I think probably most of us we've talked about that before too. Most of us have probably had those dreams. I don't think it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while we have some dream where we wake up from the dream and we think, wow, that is really a weird dream. I'm really glad I'm awake. And then we realize after a little while that we're still asleep and we just dreamed that we had awakened from a dream. And we wake up from that dream, and sometimes there might be 3, maybe even 4 layers of dream that we think we're waking up from. This is actually a pretty good description of our life in the material world. And then he says, Asatvaratmano nyesham bhavanam tat kritabidha gateo hetavas chasya mrishasvapno dushoyata. Any condition of life that is thought to be separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no real existence, like something experienced in a dream. Just as a dreaming person sees himself engaged in many different activities, the conditioned soul imagines that he performs fruitive activities. But we think that we're doing these things. But just as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, it's simply, we're not really the doer. The modes of material nature are doing all these things. These things are all the interaction of the modes of material nature. And we identify with these things because of false ego, because of some fake ID. When we were kids, fake ID was a cool thing, right? I remember, unfortunately, I can still remember being maybe, 16, and I probably looked 13, but somehow or other managed to pull off some fake driver's license that, of course, it was a lot easier to make a fake driver's license 50 some odd years ago than it is these days. Because there were all those white on black photostatic copy thingies. Probably not very many people in the room can remember that kind of driver's license. But we thought we were adults. We had everybody fooled. We thought we had everybody fooled. It was just good for them, They had their backsides covered. That's all they cared about. And we thought we were big shots in the 823 Club on 14th Street Northwest. This Rathskeller drinking dark Lowenbrow like we were some kind of grown up or something like that. I was some 16-year-old punk. Or we may think that we're the president of the United States, we may think that we're making all these things happen. Or everyone's accusing us of making all these things happen because we have a particular job. But the fact is we're just being moved around by the different modes of material nature. And because we identify with the dream, we're enjoying, those are air quotes, enjoying and suffering, or scare quotes maybe. But actually we're just watching, just like, you go into a movie house, and nowadays more and more common are these 3D movies. I mean, we had 3D movies when I was a kid. I guess they were pretty awful. But it kind of worked for us. It was cool. There was not very many of them. Now you have more and more of them. Some people can't stand them. It just gives them a headache. But the idea is it's supposed to help you identify so much more with the story. You get immersed in the story so much more. or you've got the surround sound. I don't know if anyone ever saw that film Saving Private Ryan in a movie house with surround sound. I was actually in that opening scene when they're landing on Omaha Beach. I was actually flinching, like I was ducking bullets, because the illusion of this. I mean, it sounded like they were whizzing right past my ear. But the thing is, we've just fooled ourselves. We're in this movie, and then now we do it at home. We get our big screen, high def TV set with surround sound in our man cave, and and we can have the same complete immersion in the illusion at home whenever we want. Or now, and this is something that was kind of a buzz in the late 80s, early 90s, VR, virtual reality, and now it's happening again. You can go on Amazon and buy virtual reality gear, and they have now you can have video games where you're actually in the video game. So now what's going to be happening in a few years is probably on Krishna Culture and Krishna.com, you'll have VR Leela stuff. So you can immerse, those are air quotes again, immerse yourself in the Leela. Someone will program some virtual reality thing you put on the headset, and there's, the divine couple surrounded by the Ashtasakis and all the manjaris and the cows lowing, and, the Jamuna in the background, and then clouds going, and you'll be able, as you move your hands, you'll be able to see, you pick which manjari you are, you make your own virtual siddhadeha. Who knows? Some people will probably buy into it. After all, beats the heck out of developing actual adhikar. This is our culture, isn't it? Quick and easy, right? But really, you're not doing that. You're just even in VR, you're just a witness. And it's just all these kind of things, all these things are going on. And when you take off the headset, guess what? You're still in your garage. You're still in your room in your mom's basement. So that's just the way things are. And then Hamsavatar says, Evam Vimashyagunato manasas triyavasta manmaya maya krita iti nishchitar tataha sanchidya hardam anumana sarukti tikshna yanasina bhajata makila samsayadim. Sorry, I didn't notice that the meter had changed there. My dear sons, after carefully deliberating on how these three mental states are born from the three modes of material nature, and thus created by my illusory energy, you should cut to pieces the false ego, which is the source of all doubts, with the sharpened sword of knowledge, acquired by a logical reflection on the instructions of the sages in the Vedic literatures. You should then worship me, who is situated within the heart. Does this sound familiar?
Sounds like Bhagavad Gita.
Sounds a little like Bhagavad Gita. This is one of the things that we've discussed in reading Uddhava Gita. There are many parallels. This is, after all, Krishna instructing his friend Uddhava. And it's a different kind of instruction from what he gives Arjuna. In a sense, he's instructing Arjuna to become detached and act very vigorously. And he's instructing Uddhava to become detached and withdraw. because he wants him to act as well, because he wants him to teach. And that's why he's instructing him so thoroughly. We see so many themes repeated throughout these chapters in Uddhava Gita. And so, just as in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna presents his argument to Arjuna from so many different angles of vision. And then he says, ultimately, forget them all, delete. Select all, delete. And just love me, just surrender to me. But here he's telling him from so many angles of vision, get right from the beginning, give everything up and just love me. There is no hokey pokey. This is what it's all about. That so-called hokey pokey, that's just the three modes of material nature. So he says, one should see that the objects of this world are an illusion appearing within the mind, because material objects are temporarily manifested. They can be compared to the streaking red line created by whirling a blazing stick on fire. We all know that one, right? Just like the fire baton or something like that, or you take take a stick of incense, sit in a dark room, and there's certain of us who've been exposed to certain things that we know about this, and you just kind of whirl it but after a while you don't have a clue how long you've been just doing that, and the thing's just making all these groovy patterns. But guess what? There's no glowing line there. There's no glowing line, that's just an illusion. It's simply not really there. The spirit soul by nature exists in the single state of pure consciousness. However, in this world, the soul appears in many different forms and stages of existence. The modes of nature divide the soul's consciousness into wakefulness, dreaming, and sleep. All such varieties of perception, however, are actually Maya and exist only like a dream. It's all a dream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream. So if we see that, then we're not going to be bewildered by any particular state of consciousness. And we won't be bewildered by any particular state of consciousness we find ourselves in or we see anybody else in. We may find ourselves concerned. We may feel compassion. We may find ourselves worried for ourselves if we see ourselves, for example, in a state of deep sleep. Deep sleep, you don't even really know you're there. That's analogized here in this chapter to the mode of ignorance. So you may be worried because you think, well, how can I do anything useful if I'm so immersed in a life of lamentation? And that's really kind of the hallmark of the mode of ignorance. If there's any activity at all, it's lamentation. And then you find a way to immerse yourself deeper. People who have experience with heroin addiction, with addiction to opiates, probably have some understanding of that. I remember when I was a brahmachari, I got an infection under toenail, one of my big toes, I think it was my left foot. And it simply wouldn't go away. It's Honolulu, so it's warm and moist. Everything likes to live there, including bacteria. And so eventually I had to go to the emergency room. And so he drilled it and then pulled the toenail off. And then he asked me, he said, do you want something for the pain? I said, well, what are you going to give me? And he said, it's Percodan or Percocet or some opioid. And I said, so does that really make the pain go away? And he says, no, it just makes you so you don't, it just makes your mind so you don't care that it hurts. And I said, oh, I don't think I need that. That's not exactly what I need. And from what I've read about people who've been addicted to opiates and opioids, that's kind of their experience. They want a break from their misery. They want a break from the pain, but it's really just a different kind of pain. And it's not real relief. It's just illusory relief. By somehow or other, by Krishna's grace, I had no attraction to that kind of thing, even back during those dark days of the 60s. And I do come from that culture, but I can actually, pushing 70 years old, I've never actually seen heroin or cocaine. It's pretty weird, I think. Kind of unusual. But I've probably been in the same room, but I've never actually seen them, much less used them. I had no attraction for those. But the thing is, but what are the alternatives? There's activity, there's striving. That's the mode of passion, trying to get stuff. What does that lead to? That leads to frustration. That ends up in the kind of misery that brings us into the mode of ignorance, that lamentation that characterizes the mode of ignorance. And the best is some illumination, some sense of illumination, some sense of happiness and peace that we get in the mode of goodness. But the thing is, if we don't use that to attain that fourth state of transcendence, our real state as pure consciousness, then we end up just cycling through those three modes of material nature. So then he says, Drishting tata pratinivartya nivrittiturshnas tushnim bhaven nijasukan bhavo niriha sandrishyate kvayadinam avastubuddhya jaktam brahmaya nabhavet smitirani anipatat. With the understanding of the temporary and illusory nature of the material world, and having pulled one's vision away from illusion, you should remain free from desires for material enjoyment. By experiencing the happiness of the soul, you should give up material speaking and activities. Even if you must be involved in material activities like eating, you should remember that it is not ultimate reality, and that you have renounced it. By constantly living in this way, right up to the point of death, you will not again fall into illusion. So we just keep the reality in front of us. And the best way to do that is to keep ourselves. How do we give up speaking about material speaking and material activities? Well, I guess the best way would be to take Tridandi Sannyas, either externally or internally, because what that means is using body, mind, and soul exclusively in the service of the Lord. And we remind, at least I remind myself every morning when I awaken, this is what I'm about. I have to, because I'm accustomed, even as a devotee, I'm accustomed to having so many other kinds of responsibilities for many long decades. So in the morning, I have to, I have a whole bunch of prayers that I say as soon as I sit up. First thing, as soon as I sit up, before I even turn the light on, I just start in. And I think I kind of run through them before. One is the kind of standard one of the Bhutta Shruti prayers, Naham Vipram, Lord Chaitanya's Naham Vipro Nachanarapatir Napi Vaishna Shrudro. And then there's another one from Ujjula Nilamani. And I'm kind of creating a new identity, reminding myself every morning I'm working on making a new me. In so many ways. And then at the end, I remind myself, I've done this. Etang saastaya paratmanishtamadhyasitam purvatamai maharshabhiyam tarisham durant. This is this verse from the Brahmana of Avanti, later in the 11th canto. His assertion of his determination to cross over the ocean of birth and death by dedicating himself exclusively to the service of Mukunda. And then a couple of, in English, something that I've been practicing since I read it in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya in 1970. My dear Lord Krishna. And we also had, in the Gurukulas, we had the students chanting this in the morning. These are a couple of things put together from maybe chapter 22 of Mati Lila, somewhere in Sanatana Shiksha, chapter 20 or 22, I think, in Mati Lila. I don't remember the Bengali, but I've been saying the English for so long that it's kind of part of my, well, I'd like it if it were part of my DNA, part of the marrow of my bones, part of the mitochondria in every cell. My dear Lord Krishna, although I have forgotten you for so many long years in this material world, now I am surrendering to you. I am your sincere and serious servant. Please engage me in your service. My dear Lord, from this day I am yours. The last part is a verse that's from Ramayana, where Lord Ramchandra promises that if someone says even just once sincerely, surrenders to me at least once sincerely, saying sincerely, my dear Lord, from this day I am yours, I will accept him. I will always protect him in every circumstance. So I've been practicing for going on 47 years, 46 going on 47 years now. And one of these days I'll get the sincerity part. Got the memorization part down. So this is actually the key. The key is to find good company, so that we're always reminding each other, this is the kind of life we want to make for ourselves. And this is real friendship. We need to be able to find friends in whom we can confide. Friends sometimes that we can unburden ourselves without it going, necessarily any further. There's just something you got to say, and you can speak it into a fog, and it can just disappear there, and they can acknowledge it. This is okay. This is your deal. Now you know what your real deal is, right? And then they can encourage you, and encourage each of us in our real work. If we have those kinds of friendships in Krishna consciousness, then we can be fearless. We can fearlessly dedicate our kaya, mana, and vak, our body, our mind and our speech and our various souls in the service of the Lord. And then all these other things will fall into place. We won't be fooled. We'll know, oh, wow, it's a movie. You know, cool. All right. And any minute, the end credits will come up. Ta-da. And, you know, and we'll go out, and you won't be disoriented when you go out the exit into the mall or the parking lot or whatever it is, or anything like that. Once when we're able to kind of withdraw our mind and senses from these things, we're going to withdraw our sense of identification from these things, and we don't have a moment of disorientation, which is there. We just constantly remind. I mean, if you're sitting there in the movie, and not, you can be entertained by it. You can take lessons from it. Just like sometimes we would have movie nights in the ashram, and the idea was, oh, there's some entertainment here that we can also get some kind of lesson from. There was some movie that Guru Maharaj liked about some guy that was in a motorcycle accident and broke 2/3 of all the bones in his body and exploded all the organs in his body or something like that. And he turned himself into a Superman by some sort of determination. And there was a mystical character in there, played by our own Bhaktanik Multi, if I remember correctly. So, the thing is, you watch the movie, you get the lessons from it, and you think, well, that's interesting. Or another movie that we watched during movie night, we watched this in Madhuvan. Probably a little less interesting to watch on a 13-inch MacBook Pro than, in a big movie house on a big screen. What was the one? Inception. And the idea, what's another one that the devotees like, The Matrix or something, that it's all an illusion, that it's all just a big show. So you watch the movie, you're a little entertained, you get some lesson from it, and then you go out about your service. Just like, you go to a movie, and then, you relax a little bit, you blow off some steam, whatever it is, all the explosions and chases and the romance and all that kind of stuff. And then you go out and you go shopping, you stock the pantry, and then on Monday morning you go to work. It's not like your life falls apart because something that happened in that movie. So in the same way, if we're able to maintain our vision of the illusory nature of all the things, and by illusory it doesn't mean it's not really happening. It just means it comes and goes. Here today, gone to Maui, right? It's all. It's like astrologers. I don't know if they still use these books. Probably just all use programs, some software program now. But it used to be a book called an ephemeris that astrologers would use to, they'd get your time and place of birth, and they'd look at the ephemeris for such and such a place, and at such and such a time, and they'd see where all the planets and things were, what houses and how they were trined and whatever together and all those things. And they tell you who you were or whatever. But the fact is, it's all ephemeral. Just like one of my favorite poems from the English Romantic poets, Shelley's Ozymandias, where the poet tells of, he's crossing this vast desert sands, and he comes across an old broken down remnants of a statue, and there's this grim, frowny face, looking at him, and then he looks at it's this big old broken head from a statue, looking very intense, very heavy, And he looks at the foot of the statue, the base of the statue, where there's an inscription by the feet, and the pieces of the statue, some of the pieces of the statue are lying, being buried by the sand. The others are already long buried by the sands of time. And the inscription at the base of the statue says, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." Ozymandias was the Greek name for Ramses II, Emperor of Egypt, Emperor of the world, as he fancied himself. And where's his vast kingdom? And it's buried by the sands, just like was that old soap opera? Like sands in the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. Just gone. Just gone. So the Roman Empire and the Ottoman Empire and, well, you name it. And someday the American Empire. All these things will be gone. And ultimately, this cosmos. What does that chicken soup guy say? Don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. We get all excited about some catastrophe, the crash of 2007 and 8. It was horrible. It just, it really ruined people's lives. There was a previous one, 70 some odd years before. And, and there was another one sometime before that. And there was, there have been famines and plagues, and all kinds of things. And it always seems like the end of the earth. And guess what? Time marches on. And the whole cosmos is going to be wound up into the body of Mahavishnu any day now. It's all small stuff. So there really isn't anything for us to be bewildered by except our own reluctance to embrace the truth and just surrender to divine service. Srila Sridhar Maharaj would say, divine slavery. God, how we hate that word. But that's really what it's all about. I mean, love means giving. It's as simple as that. It's a slogan that's, it's really easy to misuse it as a slogan. But it really is what it is. When a mother loves her children, she gives. Now, there are moments where she might say, I give and give and give. I work my fingers to the bone, and this is the thanks I give, especially when the kids are like 13, 16, 17. And the same thing with the father. And the same thing, with friends. Men go to war, especially men in combat, now more and more women, go to war, and the bond that's forged by the stress of war, they don't know what to do when they get home. They don't know what to do. I mean, it's not just the PTSD, but there's also that camaraderie that they had with their brothers and now sisters in arms. Nobody gets it. And then lovers and husbands and wives. It's really all about giving. We sacrifice so much for each other in all those relationships. You know, we may have some big plan, and then we realize, oh, this isn't going to work for the other person. And sometimes you just don't even say anything. You just kind of just let it go. And it might come up years, decades later. And there's, oh no. Oh, there's that O. Henry story, The Gift of the Magi, about this couple. There was a couple that was very, very poor, and Christmas was coming. The wife, you know, had this long, thick, beautiful hair, and she really just wanted this really cool, beautiful tortoiseshell comb to go put in her hair. And the husband, he had a watch, but he wanted a really cool chain for his watch, but neither of them could afford it. So what was it, Christmas Day or something like that? The wife's got her hair cut off, and the husband sold his watch or something like that. He's bought her a comb. He's bought her a comb for her hair, and she's sold her hair to buy him a chain for his watch. So this is sacrifice. This is love. So this is when we talk about divine slavery. This is what we're talking about. We talk, you know, and neither of them. They probably saw the irony, but they also realized the depth of the other's sacrifice and appreciated all the more. And he probably held on to that chain, and she probably held on to that comb for the rest of their lives, whether they ever had anything nice at all or not, because it meant more than, you know, than anything else. So this is, you know, when we, so if somehow or other we can get past, we can, you know, get past our bewilderment, being bewildered by our reluctance to surrender to divine slavery and just do it, then all these illusions will be cleared up. Anybody have anything else they want to add, Bhakti?
I have two things. One thing is you were just talking about, so the mother, she might end up feeling resentful. I give, and so when we find ourselves feeling resentful because we gave, then we actually gave with expectations.
Yeah.
And what we're not experiencing is that reciprocation that we think we should be getting. That. And then the other thing is, it doesn't seem like this whole to view things as illusion or a dream is actually very user-friendly or beneficial. And it doesn't seem like a part of bhakti. Like, why would we even worry about that? Just keep in our devotional practice. You gotta understand what's the purpose. Like you said, that nice story about, oh, they sacrificed each other for love, and you know, the comb and the watch thing. But if they're all thinking this is just a dream, then why wouldn't they just sit down and not do anything? Why would you even go to work? Why would you eat? Why would you? It's all a dream. Just sit here.
Well, Hamsa Avatar actually just addressed that in the last verse we looked at.
This kind of seems so canny.
Well, there is. I mean, this is what Krishna is giving Uddhava. He's giving him some gyan, some sense of detachment. This is not real, and he's working it from this angle, and then from this angle, 1.5 degrees here, and then another 1.5 degrees. I mean, he's working this idea. It'll be worked nearly to death, because the fact what he's saying is that what we're immersed in isn't real, and it's devotion that's real. I mean, you remember we went through the 24-25 gurus, and I mean, you talk about some illusion. You had, so many kinds of, you had the wasp, learning from the wasp, and the prostitute, and what was her meditation? Her meditation was everybody just lets me down. She had some expectation. She had some expectation of real love, and really, it was all about what they could get for a few rupees. And so, his point is, the point he's making is, whatever expectations you have here, they're not going to be fulfilled. You are going to get pretty much the opposite of what you're expecting. You're going to get a big disappointment. The only place you really can find the kind of reciprocation you're looking for is in me. So he's drawing stark contrast over and over again, repeatedly. So it's not that he's leaving with this, that Krishna is leaving with this, but he's drawing this this really stark contrast, that this stuff isn't, this stuff is all temporary. It's all ephemeral.
But that's material, right? I mean, the life of a sadhaka is not one steeped in illusion, and is it? I mean, the activities of what we're doing, it's trying to surrender and engage in devotional service and do what we do for the pleasure of our guru. Yeah,
we never suffer pangs of the adhyatmic or adhi-bhautik or adhi-daivik. We don't have storms, we don't have power outages in the middle of the winter, or in the middle of the summer, so there's no air conditioning. It's 108 degrees out and 120% relative humidity because we're in the middle of a super low pressure system, and that stuff never happens to us. And our mind is never disturbed because nothing weird ever happens to us. The brakes on our truck don't go out when we're in the middle of a 1,200-mile trip or something like that.
It does, but I'm just kind of wondering, what is the use of thinking these brakes going out? This is an illusion.
Well, here's the thing.
Oh my God, I'm dying of heat.
No.
It's just an illusion.
You remind yourself that it's not the end of the world and you've got something to do. Got to get the brakes squared away. You got to get through the storm. You got to get through the fight with your spouse or the kids or the creepy boss or whatever it is. Because even as sadhakas, these things come. We can sit in a class and act all like they don't. Because I'm a sadhaka, I've been practicing for so long. But you may be kidding yourself. People saw the mood I was in for about 15, 20 minutes today. So, it's a reminder that these things come and they go. They will come. You're going to get sick. You're not old yet, but you're going to get old. And guess what? Your body's going to break down. And there are going to be times when it's kind of freaky. If not for you, because you're all transcendental, the rest of us are going to freak out because it's sumati. Oh my God, what are we going to do? I mean, you should have seen, I fell down a hill at Madhuvan. I fell down a couple hills at Madhuvan, but.
Which time?
This is how, I was going to say, this is how I roll. Literally, this is how I roll. But I mean, I fell down that, there's this one path right in front of the temple, and I tripped over a root, and I went rolling down that hill. Man, you thought Brother Sundari was going to have a heart attack. I mean, it's like, because there's this old guy rolling down the hill. So, or I remember a few years ago, Kishore the bull and Dharma got into a dust up, literal dust up. I mean, it was just like the cartoon, in the cartoons, you got the, and Guru Maharaj went to break it up. And I heard a, whoa! I turned around and there he is flying through these clouds of dust.
Oh, Guru Maharaj?
Yeah. He got tossed.
Whoa.
It's not the first time that's happened. And then you've got somebody who likes to knock over glasses of water. But the thing is, these things are gonna happen. He wasn't particularly disturbed. I was probably a little rattled for a moment, and then he got up and dusted himself off. Took us, the rest of us, a little longer to compose ourselves. So these things are going to happen, and this is a reminder. Guess what? All things must pass. These things are going to happen. Oh, there's going to be a really, really good day. Something's going to happen. A check's going to come in the mail or something like that. And that's, but Dulal won't be bewildered by that. He'll be a little delighted for a little bit. Might do a little dance in the office there. But he's not going to become bewildered by it because he knows how to organize where the different pieces of that check. He's probably got a pie for, where whatever comes in needs to go, not just, where stuff has gone over the last year, but where the stuff that comes in, over the next year is going to need to go. This is a reminder because, this is a catastrophe that's about to happen. Krishna is going to leave. The Yadu dynasty is going to be wiped out, and Krishna's pastimes are going to be over. And, people are going to be freaking out. And Uddhava is sitting, he's telling, this is how this conversation starts. Uddhava says, I'm getting a bad feeling here. Starting to think like starting to feel like your pastimes are about to wind up. Make sure you take me with you. And Krishna says, about that, got something to tell you. Better sit down. And so now he's preparing him to take up his mission. Just like when you go back almost 39 years, and this happened to us. All of a sudden one morning, Srila Prabhupada was actually gone. And we had to pick up and carry on. We had service to do. Whatever our situation was. So, I think that's why so much, again, because there's so much agitation that comes. So we're being reminded in so many different ways. It's all small stuff. Don't worry about it. And the best way to deal with it is to immerse yourself, in hearing and chanting about me, about Krishna. That's what Krishna keeps coming back to. Keeps saying this stuff that everybody's so excited about. You can't get on Facebook without having the Trumpsters and the Cruisesters and the Burnsters and the Hillsters among the devotees screaming at each other on Facebook. But guess what? A year from now, somebody else is going to be president of the United States, and these devotees are going to have to settle back into doing some service. I don't know if they are now anyway, I don't know. You're going to have to get back to chanting their rounds. Whoever it is, whether it's Eddie Munster or whoever, doesn't, and in the meantime, you got the march of time, I got this theme song from some show that was on in the afternoons in the 50s. Playing in the back of my head here. And, you know, we have to continue to make spiritual progress. And, you know, and then other devotees are going to bicker about, you know, this issue or that guru or this policy or that GBC member or this lady or that sannyasi. And guess what? Who's going to care about any of that stuff 150, 300 years from now?
2 days.
Pardon?
Or 2 days from now.
Or 2 days from now. Because it's ephemeral. And eventually the whole cosmos is going to be wound up. It's all going to be pau, as we say in Hawaiian Pidgin, finished. And, you know, not even going to be anybody around to remember. So the real solution is to recognize this plainly. So it's being harped on. Krishna is, this is Krishna harping on this. It's not just Gyan, because he always ends up with, it's really all about devotional service to me. That's the solution. Get all excited about all this other stuff going on. But it's really all about me. It's that bumper sticker on the back of Krishna's chariot. Yep, really all about me. Does that help? Is that okay? Yeah.
I understand.
You like the just love me verses. We like the just love me verses. Anything else? Okay, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your valuable time. Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Ki Jai, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.